what could they have done with the advantages that we don't have, or that we do have? Or are they advantages at all? Because all modern technology and all the conveniences of life is only an advantage if we apply the law of potential and we follow through with what it is that we are supposed to do. One of the things they talked about at the convention we went to this weekend was your life's mission. Do you know you're on your life's mission? And a lot of discussion was around that. And there were clear signs to tell you if you were on life's mission or you weren't. And the first thing that comes up is that if you are following your life's mission, and if you are on that goal, and you're on the right path, then all of the right people will come into your life at just the right time to help you along and support you in your path. And I can tell you tonight that each one of you, and some of you I have known a long time, and some of you I have just met, and some of you I have not met. But I can tell you that each one of you have come into my life at the right time. And those of you that I have known before this evening, without a doubt, each one of you has given me more than I could have possibly given you. And for that, I'm sincerely grateful. Because without each one of you helping me and supporting me along the way, I couldn't be here tonight doing what I'm doing. And for any of you that had noticed, I've struggled to write this sermon. I struggled very hard. And what I've said tonight isn't anything written on these pages because it just wasn't worth it saying. I just couldn't get it together to write it. And I really didn't know where this sermon was going. But I do want you to take with you, if you don't take anything else with you tonight, I want you to take a few steps that I've studied and I've learned about this weekend, and I looked through our natural law books, and they do apply, and they are confirmed. The first thing that you need to do is you need to spend time every day in meditation. Without daily time in meditation, you just can't grow as an individual. Some religions call it prayer. We call it meditation. We sometimes say it arrogantly by saying prayers when you talk to God, meditations when you listen. It's all the same thing. Spend time daily in prayer. Because when you spend time in prayer and in meditation, you begin to see your roadmap. You can then ask, who is it I need to see today? Bring that person to me that I need to accomplish this. This is what I see my day being like. And when you start your day off like that, your day is wonderful. When you meditate in the evenings, you sleep much better. And that's a proven fact. I can vouch for that. You sleep better if you meditate in the evenings. Your day goes better if you meditate in the mornings. Do you see a pattern here? I said once a day, twice a day is really, really super intense. You also have to seek knowledge. I remember about a year ago, Nick Sarant was here speaking. One of the things that he said when he was speaking was that as spiritualists, we should seek the truth wherever it is. And I've thought of those words over and over and over again. And seeking the truth has been something I've quested. I've read some books, and I found out that not everything written is true. This reminds me of a story I want to tell about an Indian chief. This gentleman was the first Indian of his tribe to ever get to leave the reservation and go to a university. He obtained a political science degree. And after he graduated, he returned back to the reservation where he had been raised. And the chief, seeing the people of the reservation, they weren't doing too well. And he said, you know, if our chief understood the political science process, maybe he could negotiate better in the people of the reservation. So he did something unprecedented. And that is he stepped aside and made young Echo Hawk the chief of his tribe. And this gentleman would go to the state capitol a lot and advocate for different things about the Indians' rights, and he got some accomplishments and everything, but it came to the fall of the year, and the elders of the tribe came to him and says, do we need to prepare for a bad winter? He wasn't trained in the ways of the Indian, so he really didn't know how to answer it. So being slow to the whole process, or to the answer, he sat and processed it a moment, and he thought, well, if I tell them to prepare for a bad winter and it's a mild one, well, what's the problem with having a little extra preparation? So he says, yes, it's going to be a bad winter. So they all went out and they gathered up wood. So when he was in the state capitol, he went to a phone booth. Now this is back in the 1950s, remember, so he had to go to a phone booth. He didn't have a cell phone. But he went to a phone booth and he called up the National Weather Service. And this was a Tuesday when he had called the Weather Service. And the gentleman who answered the phone says, you know, can I help you? And he says, well, I want to know what the long-range weather forecast is for this year, for this winter season. And he says, well, we don't have an answer yet, but if you give us a call on Friday, we'll have one. So Friday came, and he called them back. And the gentleman says, yes, it's going to be a pretty bad winter. So when he got back to the reservation, he called the elders together and says, look, it's going to be a worse winter than I thought. So go gather up more wood, because we're going to need it to keep our homes warm. By mid-fall, it was warm. And it was much like late summer. It really wasn't winter at all. And by this time, they normally had some snow, or at least a hard freeze, and there had not been even a frost. So he was back in the state capitol again, talking to some different committee members about some official business, and he called them up and he says, give me a long-range forecast again about the weather. He says, well, it's going to be a really bad winter. So he went back to the reservation. He told the Indians, gather up wood faster than ever because it's going to be a bad winter. Go out there and gather up every piece of dead wood out there. So that's what they did. It got to be mid-December, and they're still gathering wood, and there's still no sign of snow. So he went to the National Weather Service again, and he called them and he says, what's the long-range weather forecast for this winter? Oh, it's going to be a horrible winter. Worst one on record. And he goes, well, how do you know? He says, because the Indians are gathering wood like never before. In your quest for truth, you have to know your source. And you have to challenge your source. And you challenge it by exercising your knowledge that you've gained. And in that test will be where you know if the knowledge is true or not. Again, keep seeking truth. Keep ever moving higher. And if you find that life is not giving you daily miracles, and I use that term because I don't really know what other term to use, but where everything just falls into place wonderfully, then you need to go back and reevaluate your path in life and find out where your life mission lies. I thank you this evening.